again. But it's okay. We're gonna get through the trial. We're gonna get to through the trial or the trial day. But I do know sometimes you guys are like, yo, there's more things going on in hip hop, bro. Come the fuck on, all right? It's all good. All right. So my man will say, I'm getting married on August 29th. My CA is my username if anyone could help. This is only towards complete and final details. Bro, what do you need help with? Did you want us to plan your wedding? Am I invited? Can I come? Where's the wedding? K Flock's attorney, thank you for the 10. It says, yo, we cut Kai a break with the baddies thing. He don't get a pass for not knowing Wale. He had kids younger than him tell him who that was. He's not hip hop, but he does run the meta. I'm not gonna blame Kai for anything having to do with Wale because y'all have given Kai a position that he didn't ask for. Kai never asked these rappers to come on the stream. They begged him to come on the stream. They wanted his approval. So to blame Kai for not knowing someone, Kai's never said he's the biggest hip hop fan. I'm pretty sure Kai and his girl probably does little stupid TikToks, and they probably get most of their palette of musical taste from TikTok. Like, what do you think? And by the way, I said this before, but I said it with the biggest rapper. I said it with Drake. I said, here's the thing. Whether it's Drake or any other A-list artist, with all due respect, Kai will never like their music like I loved it. Like, I love Drake's music. Or like someone else like Kendrick's music. Or like someone else likes, I don't know, Travis Scott's music. Kai's favorite artist, he said this openly, is A Boogie. Kai was born in New York. A Boogie was a nigga who kind of represented a lot of New York niggas at that time. That's his favorite artist of all time, bro. Not of all time, but that's his favorite artist. So when y'all are thinking that he's like having your mental space in how we, like, for example, if right now there's an 18-year-old kid that's coming out of New Orleans, Baton Rouge, I'm pretty sure YoungBoy is his favorite artist. He's not going to give a fuck about what Drake got going on. And I only say that to say, I think sometimes y'all put too much pressure on Kai. Kai doesn't give a fuck about the battle like that. He don't care. Like, Kai's just listening to what he listens to. He's cool. You know what I mean? But it works both ways because they're going to these artists or they're going to Kai, right? Like, Drake is like, yo, direct my music video. Okay. Well, Drake should understand, with all due respect, Kai's not your biggest fan. What the fuck? Am I still on Discord? What else here? Discord sound. Kai's not your biggest fan. You know what I mean? And by the way, I'm not saying this necessarily juxtaposed to me or anything else. I think 100% artists are going towards clout, not going towards like their fan base. So don't go towards the clout, which is Kai, but Kai is telling you, he's being honest. The palette of shit I listen to, A Boogie's my favorite. And I'd even say that even in anticipation. By the way, I think Kai's an amazing creator, and he's creative. But let's say, I don't know, I'm using Drake as an example. Let's say Drake says, I'm going to have Kai executive produce my album. I could see Drake fans not being happy because Kai doesn't listen to Drake like that. Kai hasn't listened to Drake since 2011 like that. It's the same thing with these rappers. So I'm not blaming Kai for nothing. Rappers are chasing clout. When you chase clout and Kai is clout, how could I blame him when all y'all want his approval? He ain't coming to y'all. BT came to Kai. Kai didn't go to BT. So if Kai's at BT, like, yo, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? Who's that? Don't blame the kid. We gave Kai this status as the biggest hip hop outlet. We did. The people did. He didn't ask for it. He didn't say, hey, I'm starting on my stream today. I'm going to do some hip hop shit. Never did. So again, that's why I told everybody hip hop got to stop dick riding. Because y'all are dick riding and then getting mad or getting disappointed when someone who never asked for a position that y'all have given him. And by the way, he was going to be a big streamer with or without y'all niggas. But y'all are now trying to make it like he's supposed to be I remember when I got on Everyday Struggle. I'll be honest with you. Because I am a hip hop person, but I was about 10, no, I don't know, I was at least 10 years younger than Joe. I was listening to Chief Keef. He was still wanting to talk about Jay-Z, right? Like, I remember an episode for him, 444, was like a big thing. For me, talking about Uzi, that was a big episode for me. I love talking about Uzi and Yachty and people like that, right? It just shows you where we were, like, within our lives. Mentally, the palette of music we're listening to. But both of us, what connected us both is that we love this and we're hip-hop outlets. Like, when I knew that there was going to be other, days or topics, like I would get, sometimes we'll get the topics the night before. Bro, I was studying. I would go back to go listen to whether it was Big Daddy Kane, Rakim, like shit. I had to get in my bag to try to, because I never wanted Joe to just talk straight over my head with his knowledge. So I wanted to have some knowledge, even if it was outside my time. But I'm a person who, I'm telling you, I'm rooted in hip hop. That's it. In the streaming world, I don't think I'm that big. I think in hip hop, I'm big. You know what I'm saying? So when y'all say that about Kai, it's not Kai's job to know Wale. It's my job to know Wale, not Kai's job. Y'all have given him this title, and then y'all expect all type of dumb shit from him. All Kai got to know is his friends, what he want to do, and do what he want to do. Hip hop, stop, dick, riding. Please, just stop. Okay. Why'd I go on that fucking rant? Oh, it's K-Flock's intern. K-Flock's attorney said, where's my defendant K-Flock at? Complex, eat a dick. K-Flock's attorney also said, possible being 27. Now I'm from 145th and Lenox. They got to fight me. Act unbig in the chat. Somebody said, I don't see Lloyd Banks on that list. See, that's another thing, right? G. Milton says, yo, damn Act, keep doing what you're doing. That white got you looking slim. You know I wore white today, chat? I know, I'm doing too much before I get to the trial. I wore white today because usually, this is going to be mad TMI. I usually take a shit in the morning. So I'm taking a shit in the morning, I'm on my phone, blah, blah, blah. And right when I'm coming out, I see the scale. And I step on the scale, and, the pre-shit weigh-in is crazy. I told you I was 276 as, like, my largest point. I weighed myself today, and I was 217. So I'm 217. I'm hoping to get to 200. So I'm 17 pounds away from 200. So I was feeling, I'm feeling kind of thin, and also I'm not hungry and nothing like that. I'm good. Perfect, So I'm like, white. Not doing black today. I'm hitting the white. When I wear black, I gotta cover up, I gotta slim it down. But shit, I was like 217 today. I'm cooking. I'm good. So I'm wearing white. Plus I seen these hats. I'm like, Yeah, I was feeling myself. It's all good. Who else? Tim D, the barber. It says, your shorts so tight, I can see your heartbeat. Nah, nigga, you gonna see that there's no man boobs in this shit like that. Nigga, I used to have a little jiggle. I used to have a jiggle. Like, the jiggle was jiggling, bro. So, you know what I mean? I went in the closet to get the white, but the ones you can see that, it's not man, well, it's still a little man boob. I ain't gonna lie, it's man boobie. But it's not, but it's like half man boob, half pecs. Like, you could see it and be like, that's pecs. That's pecs. That's man boob pecs type shit, Hey, Solo, thank you for becoming a member. All right, cool. And then, let me go back over to the other channel. Ray Shelton says, when Axe stated I'll be streaming on Saturday at the end of Friday's stream, I knew we wouldn't see him until Monday. I did stream. I streamed for 30 minutes at the Vibes Cartel show. I did. Captain D Hard, pause. I'm gonna call you Captain Hard, bro. That sounds crazy too. They said TDE told you to sit down and not get up until they told you to when you was at the concert. Is that true? What? Chat. They're always gonna put some spin on it. When they say shit like that, you should just say, Axe said someone recorded. I'm not even going to dignify with a back and forth, because now I could tell, I have the loudest voice in hip hop. I could tell somebody probably feels a way about how I said that or I explained the story. So now they're trying to twist it. Y'all have the video. No more talking. Put it out. No more talking. There's no more talking needed. Okay. I showed up, good show, good conversations, and I'm not here also to trash those men, because when you stand in front of somebody and you have a manly conversation, I take them at their word, and I hope they take me at my word. I'm not here to go online to try to make them look weak or look like suckers or look like they bitches, and I hope that they're not trying to do the same as well, okay? There was respect on both sides in both conversations, and that's as much as I'll address on it. I think I spoke too much on it already. At this point, put the video out. Other than that, nothing more to say. Okay. Who else? Somebody says you like Officer Tatum, bro. What are you talking about? Okay. Oh, the Cardi B thing. So let me address the Cardi B thing real quick, and then we're gonna get back to trial. So did Cardi B's album get rejected by the label? I think she responded to you the other day, but it didn't get any mentions. Okay. Here's I'll respond to the Cardi B thing. I think you guys took me out of context. I don't know if she was responding to me. I don't know if she was responding to me at all, but I did see a clip. There's a short clip. Oh, is it this?
I crashed out the other day. It was just truly a disagreement, and it wasn't only, not only was it truly a disagreement, it was also a middleman saying stuff. And it's like, when like somebody is like in the middle saying something, words get translated wrong. People don't know who said what said this, what said that, and yada yada yada. But I want to clear up some shit, because I don't know why bitches and motherfuckers, I feel like sometimes people just go on Twitter and just be like, oh my God, let me just go on this topic. They don't know what, where, and what say something. They just like make shit up. First of all, for y'all to say that I turned in my album and they said no, let me tell you something. My label have heard all my songs as I do them, because they always check on me every 3 weeks, a month. They always check in like, hey, they pay for the studio. So,
by the way, another thing I'll say too, we could say a lot of things about Cardi, and I think this is why I've ever got a relationship with her. She's never struck me as a liar. Like, I've never thought Cardi got online and lied. Like, there's certain people who they flat out lie, and then some people who twist the truth up. Cardi, honestly, she's a really straight shooter to me. And by the way, I want to clarify. I know you're like, just play the fucking clip, but I got to clarify if any of this was because of people took what I said. I want to be very clear in what I either said or I currently mean. Number one, there is a change of the top brass at Atlantic. Those people have to gel and have to mix with the artist that's been there before. Okay? It's a new type of system on how they're dealing with artists. None of that means they don't prioritize Cardi, they don't like Cardi, or they want Cardi's music or whatever to go away. I've said as well, they're so heavily, like, Cardi is someone that you sign to a franchise, like, she has the max deal in your franchise. You're committed to her. You're going to build around her, whether you like it or not. If you inherit Atlantic, Cardi is of the highest importance. You don't buy the team, and I'm using just sports terms. You don't buy the team if you hate the fact that this is your number one person. And if you do, it's going to be hella hard to get out of it. So the current staff of Atlantic, they also, and I know this is a fact because I speak to them. I told you, I speak to the guys at 10K. They're my peoples. They love Cardi. Now, is it the same working relationship? Probably not. What does that mean? You know how Cardi says she talks to her label every 3 weeks? Well, it might be a little bit different with how they check in on stuff. They might be also like, hey, Cardi, this is our outlook for how you should go with things, while maybe the other group that used to run Atlantic used to go with another outlook. Or maybe they used to say, Cardi, you just do what you want. We'll just fund it. Those things are going to be very different, okay? Because you're having a change at the top. But I want to make it very abundantly clear. Cardi B is still of the highest priority, but I do think, this is my personal thought now, that because Cardi hasn't dropped in a while, I think they are trying to make sure whatever happens with this upcoming release is going to be so good and executed perfectly. Right? So I don't know if people took what I said and other people spoke about this, but I don't know if I'm only addressing what I said. But please, that was not intended if that was from me.
So they clearly be like, hey, what's going on? Sometimes they pop in and be like, hey, what's going on? Just making sure you're working. So for y'all to be like, oh, she turned in her album and her label didn't approve. The heads of my label been hearing my album for a very long time. All the songs that I do, they've been heard it from the time I've been doing it. Because like I say, they always pop in and check in and whatever. Second, like, I'm going to just give you a very big example. Like, Outside, I like the song, but, like, I feel like there's other songs that I really, 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 really love. Like, and that's...
Okay, I'm not going to... You guys could go watch it. There's a full 10-minute version. She hops on Spaces a lot. I personally have said I think this got to be the fuck Offset album. And I like Offset. Offset's a very cool guy. I speak to him all the time. But this is where this is where the interest is in Cardi's life. You've been through an entire relationship with a guy, had 3 kids, got married pretty early in the industry, and now it seems like that situation is over. We want to hear what you say, not on Twitter Spaces and rants. We want to hear what you say in music. So I think that's what the album should be. I haven't heard any music yet. I think Cardi had invited me to come listen to some songs. I haven't heard anything, but I would imagine whenever it comes out, it's going to be good. If you don't know, I think Cardi's one of the only artists that their first release, every song on that project has been certified by the RIAA as platinum, which is a huge deal, but also a lot to live up to. Again, Atlantic, new people up there, but they're pot committed to, if you know that poker term, they're pot committed to Cardi B. And Cardi got to learn them a little bit. They got to learn Cardi. That's what it is. 10K TJ, think of it at 5. It says, Act, we got to get Discord popping again, but we need more chat queens and some more chat queens to Discord. Okay, this man just trying to get some ass. It's like, yo, bro, we got to get Discord popping. Send the females over here. Okay, bro. All right. Cool. We are back. So let me finish Inner City Press saying what he had to say. And by the way, there was a letter that was docketed to Judge Summaranian, from him, where he was speaking about Juror 6, because they did dismiss him. Okay? Here we go.
That this guy was trying desperately to get onto the jury, so he's got to be off. But then Agnifilo made a passionate plea, talking about the right to a jury of one's peers, and it's constitutional, apparently appellate issues. Xavier Donaldson said, in this district, there's so many problems with the racial composition of juries. You've done a great job, Judge, but, this is key. And then Brian Steele said the government knew all along that Juror 6 was a problem, but didn't say anything until they thought that he was pro-Diddy. So, Judge Subramanian then said, I want to thank Mr. Agnifilo and Mr. Donaldson for their arguments, and if my thinking changes, I'll let you know. Well, there's certainly nothing in the docket, but in this case, who knows? Despite our filing in week 1, many things are not being docketed. The only thing docketed over the weekend, to my knowledge, was Alexander Shapiro, the appellate lawyer of Combs, making an argument about Juror 6, with many redactions, but at least it went into the docket. Again, that's the thing here. They seem to believe that if anything could be redacted, you can just withhold the whole thing until weeks later. And it's making it very difficult to report on the case. And it's making it very dangerous, too, because you don't know what's been admitted and what's not been admitted. You don't know, what arguments are being made in these non-docketed filings. So we're just going to continue blasting away. What can I say? Now, also, in EDNY today, I think we can say this.
Okay. See, he's about to get into the Eastern District. Okay. So, I thought there was something on the docket about that juror. So, like, the AUSA thinks they have a Trojan horse. You got to remember, one juror could fuck their whole case up. Clearly, they think this person, obviously they have an ethical responsibility to make sure someone doesn't have lack of candor issues. But I think they think this person, based on them summing it up now, this person was dying to get on the jury because they're in favor of Diddy. So they want this motherfucker out of here, right? Now, keep in mind, I don't know if you guys watched the YNW Melly trial. YNW Melly, that mistrial supposedly came from one juror. It only takes one. One juror said, I don't give a fuck what y'all niggas say. I'm not voting guilty because I don't think he did it. I don't think he did it. That person was unable to be convinced. And at a certain point, the judge accepted that this was going to end in a mistrial. Now, obviously, the state elected to try him again, and that's why he's still in Broward County, and he's still awaiting his second trial for double homicide. However, it takes one juror, people. One juror. Okay. So cool. So the next thing, I want to read you guys the letter. And by the way, if you're wondering why I'm not rushing to get to like this witness on the stand, they're not giving any new information. They're just summing shit up, right? They're just giving a summary. All right. Okay. Oh, this is from the juror. Oh, not the juror. I mean, the defense. This is from Alexander Shapiro. Ah. Okay. So they wrote a letter saying, don't dismiss this juror. And it doesn't look like they've made a ruling yet. Doesn't look like they've made a ruling yet, huh? Okay. Cool. Now, remember, what the fuck? Remember, chat, there's 18 people who's in the jury box. There's 12 that are going to vote, but there's 6 alternates. The alternates are ranked, right? If the jurors, and by the way, I finally seen there's a website. This dude actually has a website here that describes everybody. Here we go. Diddy docket. Okay. Now, what's important is that this is the juror breakdown right now. We don't know which one's 6. But there's a male. He's 31. He's an investment analyst. There's a 39-year-old male. He's a social worker. A 41-year-old male. We don't have race demographics. Prison communications worker. There's a scientist. There's a retired person from finance, 68. Okay? There's another 68 male retired telecommunications person. There's a logistics analyst. Now, I'll say this. I've noticed people who tend to work in mathematical or science fields are very logic-based. They're very black and white, right? While people who work in social fields like social workers and other fields of the sort, they're a psychologist, they're able to, kind of look at things in a gray area. So, for example, somebody who works in logistics or maybe a scientist, it's either A or B. There's no A-B or something in the middle. While someone that might be a social worker or someone that might have the understanding of, psychology or sociology, they might be like, yeah, she's not telling all the way truth. She forgot a couple things, but people don't forget the sentiment. That did happen, right? So I'm looking at this. We are kind of seeing some people who work with numbers. So if you ask me, if I'm Diddy, I want people that work with numbers on this case, because there's certain stuff that sounds like sex traffic. It's one of those, right? Where it's like, kinda, not really. You want the person who's going to say, no. There's no kinda, no really. There's either yes or no. Either it 100% looks like it or it 100% no. Now, granted, the standard to find him guilty is beyond a reasonable doubt. However, these jurors are going to vote. They're not going to apply that, necessarily to their vote. They might be like, I heard enough. There's so much smoke, nigga. There's a fire somewhere. So there's a social worker. Okay, so we got somebody from finance. I think that's good for Diddy. Telecommunications, I can't tell. Prison communications, can't tell. Investment analyst, I think that's good too. So investment analyst, scientist, I think that's good. Retired from finance, I think that's good. Logistics analyst, I think that's good. Banking, okay? You want numbers. It's either, it's either $1 or $2. It's not like, it's $1.20. No, nigga, we're only dealing with whole dollars here. Okay. Actor and a massage therapist. I don't know about that one. There's a deli clerk. Okay. By the way, these are the females. It's a 30-year-old female. It's a deli clerk. I'd be a little bit concerned about this. Nursing aide. No. physician's assistants, and former treatment coordinator. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 4 women, 8 men. Not bad. Not bad. And I also hear that there is more than half that are African Americans. That's what I heard as well. Okay. So cool. All right, bet. All right. Also, let's see if we can find the. Can we find the indictment? I would love to find the indictment. Okay. So, great. This is a superseding 3. So this is SS3. Okay. Sorry. Now, the reason why I'm doing some of this, chat, is that we're starting to wrap this shit up. When we saw the indictment weeks ago, if not months ago, we just saw charges on a sheet. We were going to see if these things are provable. Well, all of the witnesses to provide factual evidences have already testified. So we're now at the part where, yeah, we're getting these summary witnesses, but we're also trying to figure out, did they prove it based on what we know? So let's go down to it. Okay, we know the enterprise, they're still trying to prove that. But let's go to the charges. So the first charge is the charge of, give me a second. Where's the count? Okay, so count 1 is RICO. All right? Now, we all know that's the big charge. I'm not too sold on it. I could see Diddy possibly beating it, even though there's so many things in it. I've told you about the anatomy of a RICO charge. We have predicate acts and overt acts. Predicate acts consist of, I believe, about 17 offenses federally. Let me see, how many predicate acts do exist? How many predicate acts? Well, offenses in federal RICO. It might be more. Okay, it's 35 of them, actually. So it's 35 predicate crimes that fall under RICO, okay? And they include these things: bribery, sports bribery, counterfeit, theft, embezzlement, extortionate, credit transaction, fraud, multiple frauds, mail fraud, wire fraud, financial fraud, unlawful procurement of citizenship, reproduction of naturalization and citizenship papers, sale of naturalization, obscene matter, obstruction of justice, criminal investigations, obstruction of state or law enforcement, tampering with a witness. Okay, it's just a lot. Murder for hire. We see murder for hire, which that's Dirk. Sexual exploitation of children, interstate transportation of stolen property, money laundering, gambling, illegal gambling, right? Welfare funds, wagering, paraphernalia, transportation aid and racketeering enterprises, interference with commerce by threats or violence, peonage, slavery, and trafficking of people. Which this is where the Mann Act falls under that too. I think that's 1591, 18 USC 1591. Fraud, misuse of that, misuse of passport, forgery, There's a lot tied against a witness, informants, tampering with an informant. Okay, so there's a lot of things that fall under there, and trafficking. Okay, so sex trafficking falls under this one, right? But arson and shit like that also is there too. Cool. So we're not gonna get into count 1 like that. That's going to be where this whole case is determined. As I said, if Diddy gets found guilty on that, he's going to get 20 years. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Diddy will get 20 years in prison, federal prison, if he gets found guilty on count 1, which is RICO. Count 2 is sex trafficking. It's not a RICO charge. This is a separate charge. But this is the sex trafficking of and victim 1. So the second charge is Diddy sex traffic victim 1. Now, if he sex trafficked victim 1, I've told you this before, it also falls up in the RICO as well. But if they couldn't prove the other stuff with the RICO, they could just get isolated charge. I'll ask y'all, do you think Cassie was sex trafficked? That's up to y'all. If you say yes, y'all the jury at this point. If you say yes, you would vote yes that he's guilty. If you say no, he would be not guilty on count 2. Count 3, and I think this is going to be an easier charge. If anything, I think Diddy's best chance, I don't see him being not guilty on all charges. I see him being not guilty on the sex trafficking charges. And then the RICO, that's going to be a big if. But if he beats that W, I think if he gets found guilty of prostitution right here, which is, that's count 3, I think he still hugs his lawyers in court. You ever see one of those where they get found guilty or not guilty of like 90% of things, but they get one guilty and they still happy as fuck, they crying tears? Yeah, because this, Diddy would have to serve 2 years. 2 years, you're done with this, get married, stop doing freak offs. Well, I don't know if you will. And just get your life back on track, right? So this is the prostitution thing. And here's the thing. This it's a transportation of victim 1 and sex workers. So Cassie and the sex workers. Now, this kind of lines up with sex trafficking. You got to remember, they overcharge him a bit. If they can't get him for sex trafficking, they want to get him for prostitution. So sex trafficking means by force, fraud, or coercion, which means they weren't willing. If they can't get him if you listen to him, be like, I think Cassie was willing. And all the sex workers claim they were willing too. So this is not sex trafficking. If you can't get him for that, you then look to the next thing. Well, if it ain't sex trafficking where they're being forced, it's definitely prostitution, right? It's prostitution. Even though his defense is, I never paid none of these people directly. Somebody else paid him. Okay? Cool. And then Diddy's argument is going to be, were you paid for your time or were you paid for just sex? The prosecution is trying to make the case to say he was paying for sex and would even compensate more when they ejaculate, right? Okay, so let's go to count 4. Count 4 is another sex trafficking charge, but this one is of victim 2. Victim 2. So this is Jane Doe. This is 50 Cent's baby mom. Do you think, chat, we're voting at this point. We're doing a preliminary vote. We're going to do many votes until we get to a verdict, chat. Just bear with me. Do you believe that Jane Doe, 50 Cent's baby mom, victim 2, do you believe Jane Doe was sex trafficked? Do you believe that she was forced to do commercial sex acts brought across state lines and they influenced and disrupted interstate commerce by her doing these commercial sex acts that she didn't want to do and she was forced to do by actual force, by fraud, or by coercion? What do you guys think? So let me know. That's count 4. But this is about Jane Doe. Let's go to count 5. This becomes, remember, if they can't get him for count 4, just like it's like piggyback charges. If they can't get him for sex trafficking, so the big one is RICO. If the RICO gets, if he gets found guilty of RICO, and I think I've said this to y'all, if he gets found guilty of RICO, is going to be guilty on all charges. Because the RICO is the hardest to prove. Then they separated sex trafficking just for Cassie. But if they can't prove the sex trafficking, they say, well, prostitution for Cassie and the sex workers. Then they say sex trafficking for Jane Doe, a.k.a. Daphne Joy. And if they can't prove that, it becomes prostitution for Daphne Joy and the sex workers. Get me? And that's the 5 counts. Okay? That's it. That is it. So, with that being said, the 2 witnesses that matter is Jane Doe, 50 Cent baby mama Daphne Joy, and also Cassie. Now you might say, what about these other people who claim they got beaten, right? Like Mia, Capricorn Clark, claims she was abused. Well, all of that comes into either establishing the enterprise, RICO, or other predicate acts under RICO. With RICO, you need 2 predicate acts. 2. Now, the predicate acts they've listed under RICO, or predicate offenses, right? Okay? I told you there's 35 of them. Predicate acts under RICO, I'll tell you what it is. Give me a second. Let me go. Where is it? Okay. So they're alleging kidnapping. They're alleging arson. They're alleging, what else? Kidnapping, arson, bribery. They're alleging tampering with witness, victim or informant. They're alleging forced labor, the Mann Act. They're alleging sex trafficking. They're alleging prostitution. They're alleging, all right, so we got to count all these up. A, kidnapping. B, arson. C, bribery. D, tampering with witness. E, forced labor. F, sex trafficking. G, transportation and inducement for travel purposes of prostitution or other legal services. H, narcotics distribution. Okay? Distribution and possession. Okay? With the intent to distribute. Okay. So what's that? That's 8. There's 8 predicate acts that they believe that Diddy has done. They need to prove 2 out of the 8. Do you understand? They need to prove 1 quarter. 1 quarter. So 2 out of 8. Some of these might be easier than others to prove. Kidnapping. Would we call what happened in an Intercontinental Hotel kidnapping? Did Cassie say she couldn't leave? Well, she tried to leave. He beat her. He dragged her back. Did she say he prevented her to leave? That could be something that could be, voted on and say yes, right? Diddy's lawyer's been trying to address that too. That's why they talked so long about that video. Also, other people who said whatever, that's hearsay, pretty much. Like, yeah, he beat the door down, he came in, he threw something in my head, we couldn't go nowhere. You're not going to find a nigga guilty and give him 20 years off of word of mouth, right? Or unless there's a lot of word of mouth, right? Arson. Are you going to say he blew up Kid Cudi car? I don't think you could find him guilty on arson. So I don't think this is proved. Bribery. Here's 100,000. Delete the video. Delete the video. That's a decent point. Diddy was always paying for things to keep people quiet. Paying for things to keep people quiet. Tampering with witnesses. That comes in when he was calling Dawn Richard. She was, at the time, possibly Kalina. And also even how they were trying to speak with, was it Mia or someone else? And that was supposed to be an attempt to subvert what was a grand jury hearing. That would be tampering with a witness. Forced labor. These people say they had to work 20 plus hours a day. At times, they didn't get paid for it. They had no choice, as many of them say. Was that convincing enough? Keep in mind, you got to agree 100%. You have to have no doubt in your mind. Sex trafficking. We talked about that already. It would be sex trafficking of either Jane Doe or Cassie or the sex workers. And another prostitution thing and drugs. We'll see. All right. Okay. I think we are ready. I think we're ready. So let's go again. This is a summary witness. Bear with me, people. There's no new info that's coming out today. Maybe some new motions. And maybe the judge might hear a few things. And we might get a glimpse of what the the defense case is going to be. So Judge Summarian says, I hope everybody had a good weekend. The defense has a motion for a plea, or a nap, I don't know, I'm probably saying it wrong, instruction to the jury. So there's an instruction that the defense has requested. They said that because they believe that Bana, Miss Bungalone, committed perjury, and I'm not going to lie, the AUSA's kind of agreed that, we think it happened, or it did happen, but her details were definitely wrong. They're saying that is something perjurious. It's lies. Could you tell the jurors to not think about anything she said? The judge has agreed, or not agreed, has disagreed and said, I denied the motion's defense. I denied the defense motion. Now in Juror 6. Last week, the defense posed a further questioning of the juror. I took time to reconsider. The defense observes in its June 15th letter, here, the record raises serious concerns about the juror shading his answers to be on the jury. The shift in answers raised questions about the juror's credibility, so the court has indicated that Juror 6 should be dismissed. The defense now urges further questioning. The judge says the defense raised concerns about replacing an African-American juror with a white one and cite the Second Circuit case. The courts take this very seriously, but further question is inappropriate and might negatively impact the jury. That's why we have alternates. Mr. Donaldson praised the diversity of the jury and said the process worked wonderfully. The defense asked the court to base its decision on race. That would be inappropriate. So Juror 6 is excused and is going to be replaced by the first alternative. So the judge is saying, y'all made a request that if we're going to take off a black juror, we should put it on another black juror. If we made the decision based on race, that would be prejudicial as well. So we're going to excuse a juror since you had previously agreed that the jury was very diverse. We're going to excuse that juror, which is now we get to realize a black juror, and he's going to be replaced by the first alternate. That seemingly is a white one. Okay? As to the defense allegations of prosecutorial misconduct here that is inviting the court to make a decision based on race, it can't be granted. As to the issue about another juror that arose on Friday, and apparently there's another juror they got an issue with, we don't know. So I'll question that juror at the end of today's session. The party should tell me if we clear the courtroom or do it in the enrollment room. If any event, the press and the public are not allowed to hear and report in real time. If jury gone, why enrollment room? All right. So Inner City Press says if the jury's gone, why enrollment room? Okay. The jurors enter. The judge says, welcome back. The government may call his next witness. The AUSA says, first, let's do some exhibits. They're entered on a seal. They're subject to connection. Now we'll call our first witness, Miss Sankar. Sankar pops up. She's a paralegal, a specialist for the U.S. Attorney's Office. They says, what did you work on in this case? Sankar says, I did 2 summary charts. I was asked to verify the accuracy of. Said, could you help describe the documents of these underlying these charts? Well, it's hundreds of pages of documents. It says, who's in the message in this particular chart? That's KK, Christina Karam. And whose cell phone is this? That's Brendan Paul. How did Ms. Karam respond to Mr. Lopez about seeing the escort? Sankar says, 4 laughing emojis. So Ms. Karam responded to Mr. Lopez about seeing the escort. 4 laughing emojis. Is he going to stay awake? How long is he going to stay awake? And this one from January 30th, 2023. It's an audio file. Yes. So Ms. Foster, could you play the first minute and 10 seconds? They play it. There's a female voice saying 2 things are weird. The only person who know was you. Someone found an iPad. Remember, somebody found an iPad of Jane Doe getting her guts rearranged. It says, yes. So what did Mr. Karam say in this audio? It says, she says he's going to the 4 Seasons and wants you to bring Gatorade and chicken noodle soup. So read these. So that'll be Dave Shirley. Rock riding with him. Sankar is in KK says no to Rock. Sankar is reading messages as KK. It says, Hey, could you run 4,000 cash from Rock to the hotel? Sure. Sanker says, heads up, he's about to do a wild king night. AUSA says, forgot to pick up the money. Just give it to Fa, just in case. AUSA says, what did the hotel write to Ms. Karam? Sanker says, the hotel call, Paul is coming up. AUSA says, does Paul appear anywhere else in this chart? Sanker says, yes. Let's turn off the exhibit to the public. Judge says, just let me know when they're off. So, okay, cool, let's go. Please read these messages between Jane and Ms. Karam. Karam says, ask them if they could bring up 15 bath towels. AUSA says, he always brings between 5 and 10K. They're expecting people to leave the presidential suite at 1. Now, chat, I don't know if you know what's going on here. Since Christina Karam is not going to take the stand, what's happening is that they have seized messages that they are just going to introduce into court. They're in the discovery. They could be read into the evidence, right? There can't be any type of explanation about these text messages. It can't be like, what did you mean? It has to be blatantly what the messages say. They've fought back and forth on what should be admitted, and that's why they're doing this, okay? So KK says, ask them if we could bring 15 bath towels. He always brings between 5 and 10,000. They're expecting people to leave the presidential suite at 1. We're taking off. Says, and these? Sanker says these are setting up a flight for Jane. What's this? Flight information from Jessica Ruiz to KK for Arthur Jr. and Paul. And these? Can you pick up the cash for Guido at Mapleton? There we go. All right, let's keep it going. Oh, look like this thing got fractured again. So, this was 9 o'clock, so it's about 3 hours ago. Fuck. Okay. Now here we go. Okay. What does Karam write to Sean? She writes, Guido outside. Combs replies with an audio message. Play it. Combs sounds hoarse. He says, about Guido. Take care of it, please. So he says to Christina, take care of Guido. What did KK say? Done. AUSA says, do some of the messages involve Cassie Ventura? Sankar says, yes. AUSA says, page 5. May 2nd, 2017. What are these? Text between Cassie and KK. AUSA says, okay, I'll read as Cassie. You read as KK. What the fuck? Sanker, as KK, says, you okay? Cassie says, no one deserves to be dragged by their hair. AUSA says, row 87 to 92. April 20th, 2018, Cassie and KK. Cassie says, I just can't anymore. KK says, I'm here for you. Heart emoji. Cassie says, I'm bummed, but I don't want to derail. KK says, definitely don't derail. It's not worth it. AUSA says, let's turn to Jane's messages. You read Jane. Sanker says, we got into a fight. I'm not doing hotel night. I'll bring him a cake. So what's this date of this filing? November 16, 2023. What are these? Audio files from November 19th. Play it. Audio rings. Diddy says, yo, we really can't talk on this phone. You know what I'm saying? I called, I reached out. You know what I'm saying? My love is definitely true. Just some kinky shit that I thought we definitely enjoyed. Audio. So it looked like Jane recorded him. Jane recorded. Oh, that's a lineup. Wow. Jane recorded him 3 days after Cassie's lawsuit. You see? This is when Cassie filed. A day later, there's a settlement. 2 days later, Jane Doe calls him, and he's saying we can't really talk on his phone. You know what I'm saying? And she says, I don't know. It's like word for word. It's like crazy to me. It feels sick. Combs says, but like you know, and they turn the audio off. So play the next one. Diddy says, I really need your friendship right now. Don't send no text. Diddy, in a recorded audio, he says, I need to just tell you, I need your friendship. Baby, I got to meet, you got to meet my moms. You know what I'm saying? Please pray for me. She says, okay. AUSA says 3 days later, what are these? Say KK writes, we all know your kryptonite. Wow. We all know your kryptonite. Holy. AUSA says, please make sure Robin make sure that rent is paid. It seems like they're talking about Jane. So I guess they're saying their kryptonite is Jane Doe, not Cassie. Which did not tell you that she would have a more significant importance and understanding, even though I think she butchered her testimony because she's still in love. So Diddy was saying, yo, make sure her rent get paid, bro. AUSA says, what's this? An image I found on Mr. Karam's phone from December 28th, 2023. A photo of the cell phone screen. It says, I lost work opportunities. I guess that's from Jane, right? Sankar says, this is Jane says, you broke me. You asked me what I needed to move on, and now you're upset. Look like that's when she's asking him for some money. She's asking $400,000. Sankar says, he said he would send the tapes by my baby daddy. So Daphne's texting KK. He said he would send tapes to 50. I'm traumatized. He asked me who I'm seeing over and over again. Daphne, he said he'll send the sex tapes to the father of my child. On them, I'm drugged. I'm beyond hurt by him. AUSA says, what does KK says? I haven't spoken with him. AUSA says, in these photos of his cell phone, can you read them? Jane says, you fucked everything up. You win. AUSA says, what are these? Videos I found on KK's devices. Foster said, let's play it. There's a woman voice says, like $1,000. So what's in the photo? It looks like a long manicured nail. What does KK write? They just chilling at his house. Out to shop like King Knight mode or Gucci bag mode. LOL. Your Honor, can we break here? They take a break. They come back. Sankar says, what does this exhibit show? Shows messages of Sean Combs and Damian Butler, aka D-Rock, and Mia. Turn off the screens to the public and the press. AUSA says, please read D-Rock's messages, and I'll read the other. D-Rock says, love you, man. If you need a friend here, I'm here. Combs says, I'll call you back. Talking to the kids. D-Rock says, where are you? AUSA says, Virginia Beach. Or no, Mia says, Virginia Beach. D-Rock texts her number to Combs. Mia to D-Rock says, oh, I didn't have my phone. I was scuba diving. D-Rock says that we're opening up a new restaurant on the 17th. He says he doesn't want anything from you. Mia says, super smart to stay in your bubble. Mia also says, I'm on an island off the coast of Honduras. D-Rock says, I love to hear about Honduras. Let me know I can send you something. Mia says, I never asked for anything. D-Rock says, I'm not allowed to send my sister a gift. AUSA says, did you have any other involvement in this case? Sankar says no. No further question. Ms. Garagos, Tenny gets up. Tenny says, Ms. Sankar, this message from Damian Butler to Sean Combs, let's pull up the exhibit. Line 363, days earlier, the legal filing. And Garagos says, could you please read Nat more? Says the article could have been worse. They're calling up a breakup fight. Garagos says, let's read some of the messages not included in the chart. Jane writes, I could be dropped off a building. I could be dropped off at my building's front desk. KK writes, he speaks directly with Puff Daddy. I don't deal with him. LOL, right? Sankar says, right. Jane writes to KK, pulling up to the airport. Smiley face. I'm excited to surprise him. Garagos says, may I cover with AUSA Foster? Judge says, of course. Jurors, while we wait, I'm going to stand up and stretch. You may as well. Okay. Garrigo says, I think we need to shut off the screens for the public and the press. November 22nd, 2023, between Jane and KK, right? Yes. Jane says, I'm not doing any more hard partying than this one, about 3 years of wasted time. Interesting, my people. Very interesting. Let me load up the chat over here. Give me a second. Everything's taking a second. So this is the first of, I don't know how many summary witnesses they're going to bring. I don't know. All right. Okay, we're cooking in here, chat. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're about 19,000 strong. We got to get to 20. 19,000 strong overall. We got about 7K on the Academy, 6K on King Academics, and then the numbers fall 3,500 on Rumble. Not Rumble, I mean Kick, and I believe 2,000 on Rumble. Okay. All right. Here's some more. So they're trying to turn the screens off. Okay. While we wait for that. Oh.
Live on.
Look like Uncle's also out here. Here we go. Here we go.
I got to court. I got up there about 8:58. The judge was already into his response. Yesterday, Alexandra Shapiro filed a motion with the court to resist and to support and detail the reasons why juror number 6 should remain on the jury. Now that juror number 6 is off the jury, juror number 6 was a black male. There's only one black male left on the jury. I think he was replaced with a white male. They talked about something. I think they both, the defense and the prosecution, has to question this new juror, you know, whatever that means. But at the end of the day, juror number 6 has been dismissed. This was a blow for Puff. It's not a good thing for Puffy. Today wasn't a good day, in my opinion. You know, when you have a jury of your peers, your true peers, you know, you feel better about your situation. Puffy being a black male, I think Puffy is a foundational black American male. You know, and Alexandra Shapiro talks about that. She talks about that in page 2.
Yeah, that's a letter.
Issues that go on. That's what it was. You know, they were going through this, and what they're trying to do now is, you know, which is what they've been trying to do. They got this girl on the stand, and she is just corroborating, trying to tie in, you know,
Oh, so Sanker is a woman.
flying Paul from LA to Miami is the SEX trafficking and the SEX PROSTITUON, you know, and she's just, you know, it's all, you know, what they're attempting to prove. We got to see how it all shakes out. Supposedly this week is going to be the final week for the defense, for the prosecution, and then the defense will begin calling their witnesses who will come in and testify for Puff. We got to see who that person, you know, who those people are. I think that's going to be very important. Wayne 704, what's up? I think that's going to be very important. And I think, you know, a lot of the case is going to hinge upon these defense witnesses and what it is they come in and say and what it is they come in and do. But I'm going to get out of here. I think they're supposed to have Brendan Paul, who is the, they call him the drug mule. We already know what that's going to be. The direct examination, he's probably have immunity, compelled to testify.
Wait, oh wow, they're still bringing other people then. Oh, look like they're just tying. I thought they were going to do this at the end of their case. So they're done with the victims. It seems like what they're really trying to tie in or tie up is sex trafficking. But some of the other stuff like the drugs is going to fall under RICO, and they're not done with that yet. But they're tying up count 2, 3, 4, and 5. But if they're still bringing more witnesses that's going to testify about like drug possession and stuff like that, that's only under the RICO.
For threat of prosecution. So they're going to put him on the stand, and Federated States of GM Kemet, why Jules, the male escort, didn't testify. I'm thinking he wasn't there. How do you feel about that? I don't know anything about that, man. Thank you for the super chat, Federated Cheat, right? So we already know what they're going to put Brendan Paul on the stand and say, oh, Puff did this, Puff did that. But what I always look for and what's always most important is the cross-examination. That is the good part. Do me a favor, y'all. Double tap that screen. Give this video a like. So that's where we are. I will be back tomorrow to...
So look like my bro dips out a little bit early. It's all good. We're still here. Okay. Garrett goes, so Tenny's saying, here, could you read this message from, this is from KK to Perez. Is asking, how does he look? And Perez says, shockingly good, better than before. Right? Who's Perez? Oh, it's Jonathan Perez. I think that's the assistant. So the chief of staff is asking the assistant, how does Diddy look? I guess Diddy look, right? Said better than before. And Sankar says yes, and they said nothing further. So, okay, that's really quick. That's really quick. Sankar. It's a summary witness. You know what I'm also looking for? I'm looking for the leaks in... I'm looking for the leaks of the audio, because all the audio they play in court, unless it says this is under seal, we should have access to. We should 100% have access to. It was so interesting. Many other outlets have stopped kind of covering this case as intricately. I think we're probably one of the biggest, then Law and Crimes, that we're still doing. Obviously, there's still journalists and bloggers that are at the courthouse, but we're not seeing, you know, I think people are a little bit fatigued. Some people are a little bit fatigued. So Brendan Paul, he's going to take the stand. Brendan Paul, maybe today. We didn't hear about that before. So Brendan Paul for sure is going to be, if you don't remember, this is the guy right here.
This is 25-year-old Brendan Paul. He's a former Syracuse University basketball player, but he's better known off the court as P. Diddy's alleged drug mule. These allegations date back to February, when a bombshell civil lawsuit against P. Diddy called out Brendan Paul by name, listing him as someone who allegedly acquires and distributes Diddy guns and drugs. This was the lawsuit filed by Rodney Jones, better known as Lil Rod.
Now, I thought this was very important. Lil Rod was not used, but Brendan, like, pieces of what he said. So, like, what Lil Rod said was not all lies. Some things were kind of, like, seen as dishonest, obviously. And by the way, I think they went in on trying to scold the lawyer for it. But there's certain things that were added that were included. Like, he mentioned Brendan Paul, but he mentioned it in the second indictment after Brendan Paul got arrested. So I don't know if he's seen it then just added it, but Brendan Paul is mentioned in the second amendment complaint.
He's P. Diddy's former producer, who laid out a laundry list of serious allegations against Diddy. Lil Rod claims Diddy sexually assaulted him, groomed him to have sex with celebrities, and was the kingpin in a gun, drug, and sex trafficking empire. Similar allegations against Diddy had already been brought forward back in November of last year, when 4 civil suits were filed against Diddy. That includes suits from his ex-girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, who you know as the singer Cassie, along with Joy Dickerson Neal, Liza Gardner, and a woman who identified herself only as Jane Doe. All 3 women alleged Diddy raped them, with the allegations dating back to the early 90s. That brings us to March 25th of this year, when federal search warrants were executed at 2 of Diddy's properties in both California and Florida. Almost 2 months later, Diddy has not been arrested and no charges have been filed. But things didn't stay quiet in Diddy's world for long. On March 27th, just 2 days after those federal raids, Brendan Paul was arrested at the airport in Miami while trying to board Diddy's private jet. Paul was arrested and charged with cocaine and marijuana possession, but the latter charge was quickly dropped. Just this week, there's been movement in his case in the way of a plea deal. The bottom line, Brendan Paul will not face jail time.
And he would have been facing 5 years in prison.
Now, this was made a year ago. Now we get to kind of realize that his plea deal, well, that's a state case. But he could have caught a federal case. And a federal case for being wrapped up in this RICO, but clearly they gave him some immunity and they didn't charge him. But apparently he's going to be taking a stand.
That's former prosecutor Melba Pearson, who previously worked in the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office, the same one that brought charges against Paul. As she explains, Paul's plea deal included something called a diversion program.
But since he did not have anything in his past, he didn't have a criminal history, he was offered what was called diversion. And what that does is that it gives you the opportunity for participation in a program for 6 months. If you don't get arrested again, if you complete the program, so it could be drug therapy, it could be counseling, it could be community service, it could be any of a number of things, it just could be a fine. You comply, you do all of that, and then after 6 months, the charges get dropped against you, meaning that you don't have anything on your criminal record in terms of a conviction. The rest will still be on your record. You'll have to disclose that if let's say you do a job application and they ask whether or not you've been arrested, you have to answer yes. But if they ask you if you've been convicted, you can check no, which is, again, a huge thing in terms of collateral consequences and being able to move forward with your life after interaction with the criminal justice system.
Paul's attorney, Brendan Bieber, released this statement in regard to the plea, quote, Brendan accepted the prosecutor's offer to permit his entry into the diversion program, which, after completion, the case against him will be dismissed in its entirety. The Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office also made a statement saying the plea was a, quote, standard offer to a nonviolent defendant with no priors, who was arrested for a possession case instead of a much more serious trafficking case. From the time Brendan Paul was arrested in late March to now, it hasn't been that long, about 2 months. Are you surprised at how quickly things were wrapped up?
I'm not incredibly surprised because, again, this is something that happened in Miami. This is an office that I used to work for, and I remember the volume of cases I had when I was a prosecutor, especially a line prosecutor handling that level of felony. So that is a normal outcome. That's not very bizarre. And actually, to put a finer point on it, I don't think that he had to testify or do anything else in exchange for the plea, right?
Yeah, so that's where I think it gets a little tricky, and I'm disagreeing with her, even though she's a former prosecutor. Well, yeah, it probably was standard, but even still discretionary for you to get the diversion program. But the feds came in at the same time. Remember, the feds are the people who were doing the search warrant, and through that he got arrested. But the arrest only came up on state charges. So I guarantee the state helped the feds put a squeeze on him to say, yo, you could get through this and you will have nothing on your record like it never happened. But you got to testify against Diddy. Okay? And you're not testifying about this other stuff. We only know you used to bring drugs. You just got to say I used to bring the drugs. Okay? That's all you got to do. So I do think, he had to do something. And I think the states helped the feds pressure him to be in this Fed case.
Right? Normally, if we see a case wrap up this quickly, that would be the first thing that I'd be asking, like, oh, okay, what else did you do in exchange for that favorable plea? But looking at his history, looking at the volume of cases, and also looking at the severity of the charge, in the universe of things, it's not trafficking. It's literally possession of cocaine with an argument that could have been made that this was for personal use. I wasn't trying to resell it. I wasn't trying to, take it overseas or make money off of it. This is just, for me to party this weekend, right? When you look at it from that perspective, the outcome, the resolution, the plea makes a lot of sense and is not outside of the norm.
We have to pause this Brendan Paul story for just a
ended those parties to the survivors, right? He procured drugs for the parties, but they didn't say much about him himself participating in harming people. I think that distinction would have been problematic if there was some discussion of him harming people. Then he may not have gotten a diversion plea. He may have gotten something along the lines of probation, and maybe there would have been more pressure on him to testify against Diddy in any investigation. Again, that's not to say that the feds can't call him up and
somebody said if he rats, the plug cutting him off. Hey, he don't look like the kid that was like the plug. He looked like he just was the do boy who would know a guy who probably knew the guy to get the drugs, Okay. Let me see. Anything else? We're still waiting for some more stuff. Just give me a second here, people. They're pretty much about to go to break. They should be angling to go to lunch in a second. Let's see. Okay. So now the next government witness is it's another special agent. And they're going to chart us to death, people. So there's another special agent. It's about charts. So these are certain meetings or whatever. There's a chart being shown about a meeting in the London hotel involving Sean, Cassie, and Jules. The chart shows lists of flights taken by meeting participants, including Jules and Cassie. The special agent is basically speaking on the chart, and they object. Okay? So this is all charts trying to simplify things. I thought we heard from Jules, but I guess not. I thought Jules was the first guy we heard from and the guy also in the hotel. I don't know. Whatever. But they're having these charts to clearly show transportation and prostitution across state lines, okay? Maurice, thank you for the 2. Saying nothing bigger than the Academy gang. Appreciate you. So these summary witnesses aren't going to be the most entertaining thing, okay? By the way, this is when
The man accused of being a drug mule for music mogul Sean Diddy Combs is no longer facing any charges after he was arrested for narcotics possession. And this comes as the lawsuit he's mentioned in gets some major updates. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
Here we go.
He is in a Brooklyn detention center after a grand jury. And this lawsuit, aside from the multi-million-dollar civil lawsuit that was filed by Sean Combs' ex-girlfriend Cassandra Ventura, this was one of the first big red flags that indicated something big was on the horizon, because it included all sorts of allegations of illegal activity on a much grander scale. The lengths that Sean Combs and his staff allegedly went to in order to fulfill the record label CEO's desires. I mean, Rodney Jones brought up allegations about racketeering, this racketeering criminal enterprise. But back to Brendan Paul. Who is he? Well, he's apparently this Ohio native. He was a star basketball player at Syracuse and Fairmont State Universities. This is before he actually got involved in music production during the pandemic. But I will tell you, it's
nigga like the male Caitlin Clark.
Unclear how exactly he got linked up with Sean Combs, or maybe got linked up with him. I'll say he has been named, and photos of him have been included in Rodney Jones' lawsuit. Now, he's accused of carrying all sorts of drugs with him at all times for Sean Combs, and is also accused, by the way, of being involved in paying sex workers. Jones filed his lawsuit in February, and then he filed an amended complaint offering more details in March. And by the way, March was an important month in this case because that is when Combs' two mansions, one in Miami, the other in Los Angeles, were raided by federal authorities. Homeland Security investigators were seen at the properties carrying boxes of evidence out of those homes. Combs was not at either house during the raids, and there was concern at one point that he might have fled the country, but he was spotted later that day in Miami. Now, Combs wasn't arrested at that time. He wasn't charged with anything at that time, but it was clear that federal investigators were looking into his conduct, and there could be very serious legal action on the way. We were all saying for months, is it possible he's going to be indicted, and when would he be indicted?
Okay.
And then just two
justice system.
Nolle proseque. You know what? I haven't said it's abuse course. Now, the court website shows that the two original charges, they were felonies. That means potential jail time. Possession of cocaine, possession of a controlled substance, but no action was taken on the controlled substance charge, as I mentioned. And
would y'all call him a snitch? I mean, he used to get the drugs, but like, I don't know. It feels like anytime we're talking about like white people, it kind of is like, or even maybe it's just a worker, like an assistant. Like, could assistant snitch? Like, I don't think this guy was hanging with Diddy. Like, I think Diddy was hanging with his bodyguards and, like, some friends, which we haven't seen any of his friends get up there. But I could see, like, do y'all call this guy a snitch? I mean, maybe he is, because after all, it's not like you were doing your regular, the assistants aren't snitches because they were doing their regular jobs. They weren't doing crimes. This nigga was going to get drugs, and he knew that was a crime.
And the disposition for the cocaine charge is listed as nolle proseque. You know what? I haven't said that term since law school. Hopefully I said it correctly. A lot of people just say nolle pros, but it means that the prosecutor decided not to pursue charges. So the record indicates that Paul successfully finished that pretrial intervention, and that would be the conclusion of his case as of now. But now I want to talk about some of the accusations against Brendan Paul that are laid out in Jones' civil complaint, because here's the truth. We don't know if Brendan Paul will somehow be connected to Sean Combs' criminal case.
Yes.
To be clear, though, when it comes to this, Paul is not named as one of the defendants that Jones is suing, but his alleged boss, Christina Corum.
Somebody say, yo, what the fuck? Aki sold drugs. Somebody say he's a civilian. Wait, could a civilian sell drugs?
Sure is. According to Jones, Paul reported to Corum. This was Combs' alleged chief of staff, and she has been described in this lawsuit as a Ghislaine Maxwell type to Sean Combs. Maxwell, of course, is the woman convicted of trafficking young girls on behalf of her boss or associate or friend or boyfriend, I don't even know what you want to say, Jeffrey Epstein. Now, Corum was reportedly Combs' right-hand woman and had several direct reports, including Brendan Paul. This is according to the lawsuit. So the amended complaint reads, as the chief of staff, defendant Corum was instrumental in organizing and executing the RICO and TVPA Enterprises. Now, RICO, of course, stands for Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act. Basically, an allegation that Combs Enterprises, his businesses, really a criminal organization, and that its employees and associates were committing criminal acts in furtherance of that criminal organization. TVPA is the Trafficking Victims Protection Act that was passed in 2000 to combat human trafficking. The suit continues. Defendant Quorum had the following individuals execute the following tasks for the RICO.
Every time I order liquor on DoorDash, they do me dirty. Look, like, nigga, this is like, I'm gonna drink this in 20 minutes. This is what they send. I said, look, give me the bottle of Tito's. You know the big one I usually have? They send me this. They don't give two damns about me.
And TVPA Enterprises. Stevie J recruits sex workers and attends and participates in freak-offs. Justin Combs solicits prostitutes, underage girls, and sex workers, would engage in freak-offs. And Justin Combs is, of course, Diddy's son. He's also named as one of the defendants in this complaint. But it continues. Brendan Paul works as Mr. Combs' mule. He acquires and distributes Mr. Combs' drugs and guns. Frankie Santella works alongside Brendan. While Brendan acquires and distributes Mr. Combs' drugs and guns, Frankie carries the money and pays for the guns and drugs. And a footnote actually indicates that Frankie Santella was vice president of music management and strategic partnerships for Combs Global. But Paul is also named as one of the people who allegedly worked out fees with sex workers and made sure they got paid. And when it came to drugs, the complaint says there was a lot of them. Members of the enterprise and their associates procured, transported, and distributed ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, mushrooms, and 2C by packing these substances in their carry-on luggage and going through TSA. Now, we have told you before about 2C. It's also known as pink cocaine. It is a party drug that has surged in popularity here in the United States. It's actually not just cocaine, but usually is a mix of different psychoactive drugs. Researchers say, though, its pink color is just for aesthetics. It's just for looks. But going back to the complaint, it continues. Plaintiff Jones personally witnessed members of the enterprise do this during national and international travel as detailed below. Brendan Paul on December 22nd, 2022, from Miami, Florida to St. Bartholomew. Brendan Paul and Christina Quorum on April 28th, 2023.
Now, remember, Christina Karam, who I think is so important, is not in this case at all, right? However, it was testified by Jane Doe, 57 baby mom, that Christina Karam, and by the way, they have her phone though. They have her phone. The government has given no explanation why Christina Karam is not in this case. They have said nothing. She doesn't seem to be in custody. We've heard Diddy's lawyers say they have conferred with her lawyer, meaning it can't be that hostile of a relationship because her lawyer is talking to the defense seemingly to help the defense or to give information. That's interesting. Don't know why she's not in there. I'm pretty sure we'll find out at some point. However, the point that I'm bringing up is that she was the one who would tell Jane Doe, that's Daphne Joy, yo, just bring it in your purse. They won't check. Because remember, Diddy was flying her out. And Diddy would say sometimes the assistant Christina wouldn't be in the place that Diddy was at. So they would give Jane Doe drugs and say, nah, he needs those when y'all go do y'all thing. And she was nervous, like, I don't want to bring this in my purse. And they're like, no. We always have people bring this shit on the planes. You're fine. And supposedly Christina Karam told her that. And Christina even said, I bring the drugs up in my purse too. So, what do you make of that? By the way, this is all if you believe these people, right?
From Los Angeles to New York City to Virginia and back to LA. Brendan Paul on November 4th, 2023, from Los Angeles, California to London, England. And then there's this footnote that says that Paul was seen packing cocaine into his carry-on luggage in Combs' garage the evening before that flight to London. The lawsuit also says that Paul was also required to have drugs on him all the time. It says, quote, the following is a screenshot of a video taken on Mr. Combs' yacht on or about December 25th, 2022 at 2:40 a.m. Brendan Paul is videotaped with one of the black pouches.
So the Diddy and Cassie situation has been getting freakier and freakier by the day. The more and more I hear about these allegations, Diddy is a freaky man, the king of the freak offs. And Cassie, you feel me? She was young, vulnerable. Um, but like what Ak said, she could have left. Like Diddy was not holding her. Well, this is what's hard for me. Allegedly, Diddy wasn't holding her hostage, but she said on the video that came out in the hotel where he hit her over and drug her back, she was trying to leave one of the freak offs. And Diddy said, "Oh no, you're not gonna leave the freak offs. You got it. Yeah. Wait till the dude, bust a nut, allegedly, then all over you, then scrape it off, go in the other room and rub it on my nipples." That's what he wanted. It sounds so crazy to say, but that's what Diddy wanted. Like, we seen him in the robe. I thought he was just fresh out the shower, but allegedly he was probably butt naked. I'm surprised it was no baby oil on her or him, or she wiped it off. That's why he was so mad it was no baby oil on. Hey man, I genuinely feel bad for Cassie. I feel bad for her husband too, because he has to be in court and he's listening to all these things. And I don't really think Cassie's lying about anything. Like, Cassie just seems like a nice girl, probably like gentle, innocent, like, and she just wanted a career. Like, man, I'm struggling here because I want to be very, very honest about everything, like my point of view. I don't think Diddy was the best of best people, and I think everything he did to Cassie was wrong, and it was definitely manipulative and all that stuff. But like, is it sex trafficking though? Like, this is what he's charged for. Like, domestic violence, yes. Assault, yes. Like, probably a bunch of other crazy stuff, yes. But sex trafficking, bro, I don't know if you could say he was sex trafficking. But it's only day 2 of the trial. And I'm gonna be very, very unbiased about every single thing I say. It's day 2 of the trial. Diddy is he's there every day. They say that he's looking white as hell, he's gray as hell. He's, you feel me? They said he was looking at Cassie the whole time. But day 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we don't know what's gonna happen. Maybe 2 weeks later, there might be someone else taking the stand, and we don't know how that's gonna go. Maybe like 3 days later, there's gonna be a new person taking the stand, and they just expose everything about Diddy. Like, we don't know fully everything Diddy's done yet. Like, there might have been men that he was having free costs with. Like, I ain't gonna lie, bro. Like, Act was the line about what he said. Diddy should just came out and said that he was a flexible, bro. He should just said he was bisexual, bro. Like, I'm not gonna lie. And what Act said, bro, all these rappers gotta come out who was around Diddy, like really, really hung around Diddy and was like really cool with him. They need to come out and like, yeah, yeah, bro. You gotta defend yourself, your integrity. You feel me? But your boy Big Act News. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. And do you feel like Diddy's innocent, or do you feel like he's guilty? And we're talking about sex trafficking. Like, we're not talking about is he a good person or not. Do you think he's guilty of sex trafficking, Cassie? It's your boy Big Act News, and I'm out.